To get a grip on the argument, we first need to understand two foundational concepts that Aquinas borrows from Aristotle, and those are actuality and potentiality. These ideas are absolutely central to how he defines change.
Okay, so what's potentiality? Well, it refers to what something could become. A simple example is a pan of cold water. That water has the potential to become hot. It's a possibility that's inherent in the water, but it's not realized yet.
And on the other side, we have actuality. This is the realized state of a thing, what it is right now. A hot hob, for example, is actually hot. Now, here's the crucial part. For a potential to become actual, for that water to get hot, it has to be acted on by something that is already actual. In this case, the actual heat of the hob is what actualizes the potential heat of the water. All right, with those concepts of potentiality and actuality in place, we can now lay out the logical structure of Aquinas' argument. He presents it as a series of premises that lead to a final conclusion. The argument moves through 6 steps. Premise 1 just starts with a simple observation: things in the world change. Premise 2 says that anything that changes is changed by something else that is already actual. Premise 3 then points out that this cause must also have been changed, and that creates a chain of causes. Now, premise 4 is the key move. It claims this chain of causes can't just go on forever, to infinity. And premises 5 and 6 back this up, stating that if you remove a cause, you also remove its effect. So, if there was no first cause, there could be no later effects, which would mean nothing would be changing at all. So, from all these premises, Aquinas draws his conclusion. There must be a first cause of change that isn't itself changed by anything before it. This thing, which he calls the unmoved mover or the unchanged changer, has to exist to kick off the whole series of changes we see in the world. This brings us to a really significant objection from the philosopher David Hume, which takes direct aim at that premise about infinite regress. Hume's objection zeroes in specifically on premises 4 and 6, the claim that a chain of causes can't stretch back infinitely into the past.
Hume's point is that the claim an infinite series of causes is impossible isn't a necessary truth. He argues that the idea of an infinite regress doesn't seem to contain an obvious logical contradiction, not in the way a statement like a triangle has 4 sides does. Since we can conceive of an infinite series without it seeming immediately contradictory, Hume says we're not justified in ruling it out as a possibility. He basically says if every individual link in the chain is explained by the one before it, we don't need a separate explanation for the chain as a whole.
So, in response to Hume, defenders of Aquinas' argument shift the focus. They move away from what is conceivable to what is logically possible. The key philosophical issue here is really about 2 different types of infinity. There's what's called a potential infinity, which is a series you can always add one more to, like counting numbers. You could do it forever. But then there's an actual infinity, which would be a completed existing set that already contains an infinite number of things. Aquinas' argument is that an actual infinite series of past causes just can't exist in reality. The whole concept of an actual infinity seems to lead to some bizarre logical paradoxes. Take Hilbert's hotel as an analogy. Imagine a hotel with an infinite number of rooms, and every single room is occupied, so it's full. But if a new guest arrives, the hotel can still make room by having every guest move to the room with the next highest number. This creates a logical contradiction. The hotel is somehow both full and not full at the same time. These kinds of paradoxes are used to argue that the idea of an actual infinity is logically incoherent, so it can't exist in the real world. The reply makes a really sharp distinction between what's conceivable and what's logically possible. Sure, we might be able to imagine an infinite series, but the reply argues that its actual existence would lead to logical contradictions, like we saw with Hilbert's hotel. And since anything that involves a contradiction is logically impossible, an actual infinite series of causes simply cannot exist regardless of whether we can conceive of it or not. As you can see in the table, the entire debate really hangs on the status of premises 4 and 6. Hume challenges it based on conceivability, arguing that if an infinite series is possible, then the conclusion about a first mover just doesn't follow. But the defense counters that an actual infinite series is logically impossible because of these paradoxes, which therefore upholds the premise and, as a result, the conclusion.